Ready, set, secure.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode on Cloud Key Management. Today, we'll be taking a closer look at AWS KMS as one of the native key management options that are available to us. Sounds interesting? You're going to want to stick around because in this episode, we'll be exploring AWS KMS Key Hierarchy as well as some of the different customer master key types and the different properties associated with each customer master key. So if you're ready, let's go and get started. Starting at the top of AWS KMS Key Hierarchy is your customer master key. A customer master key, or CMK for short, is a logical container and representation of the key material that lives inside. Like any other resource in AWS, it has a unique Amazon resource name associated with it. The key material inside of each CMK can either be generated using an HSM owned by AWS, or it can be imported using an external key source that you manage and control. Once the key material has been generated or imported, it cannot be exported. CMKs are region-specific and unique globally within AWS cloud infrastructure. To control management access and different crypto operations, you use a key policy that is associated with each CMK. Unlike custom master keys, data keys are used to encrypt your data. These data keys are protected and wrapped by a custom master key, while both the encryption and decryption of the data key is handled by AWS KMS. It is also worth noting that these data keys are never stored or written to disk. Instead, they only exist in memory for a short period of time before being purged from memory. With AWS KMS, there are 4 different customer master key types that I've categorized into 2 different groups. On the left, you have AWS Managed, and on the right, you have Customer Managed. For each group, you have 2 different key types. For AWS Managed, you have AWS Own CMK and AWS Managed CMK. And for Customer Managed, you have a Customer Managed CMK and a Customer Owned CMK. The 3 keys highlighted in orange are all keys that AWS owns, while the one highlighted in red is the one you own where the key material was generated and imported using an external key source. With AWS Own CMK, this is the default encryption option. This is the option I recommended to avoid in my last video, as it gives AWS not just full ownership and control over the key, but also your data. Instead, let's focus on the other 3 key types. Starting with the AWS Managed CMK. These types of keys are created automatically by individual AWS services. Each AWS Managed CMK comes with its own predefined policy that can be viewed but not modified. And because they're locked down to an account, they also cannot be shared with other external accounts. It is slightly better than AWS Own CMK, but still not where you want to be. If you're serious about protecting your data and want to control who can manage access to it, then you want to be looking at using one of the next 2 key types. With Customer Managed CMKs, you control the lifecycle of the key from defining how and when a key is created to determining which services use which key and when a key is scheduled for deletion. One of the major reasons for selecting this key type is that it gives you control over the key policy, which is used to manage access to both your key and data. With Customer Owned CMK, also known as an external Customer Managed CMK, you control and own the key material. But be careful, because with this level of control, you're responsible for the key generation, the key upload, the key rotation, and the backup process of your keys. However, one of the features that this key type gives you that no other key type does is the ability to delete your key material on demand without having to wait a grace period. With each customer master key type, we have 4 different properties that help us manage the lifecycle and the security of our keys. Starting with an alias. An alias is a user-friendly name that can be associated with a CMK. Each alias can point to a single CMK, and you can have multiple aliases point to the same CMK. However, the alias and the CMK it points to must be in the same AWS account and region. Each alias name must start with the prefix of alias followed by a naming convention. We use an alias to reference to a CMK to help us simplify the key management during a manual key rotation, or to help us map to 2 different CMKs in 2 different regions without having to reference 2 or more CMKs by their key ID. Next is key rotation. Key rotation is represented by generating a new key version and making that version the new active primary key. All previous versions of the key don't get disabled nor deleted, but instead remain active, allowing you to decrypt data that was previously encrypted with an older version of the key. You can either enable automatic key rotation or manually rotate the keys yourself. With automatic key rotation, AWS handles the process of generating new key versions under a predefined key rotation frequency, or you can manually rotate the keys and control the frequency in which the keys are rotated. With AWS Own CMK, AWS doesn't disclose the frequency in which the keys are rotated, but we can only assume it is the same as AWS Managed CMK, which is every 3 years. With Customer Managed CMK, keys are rotated every year from the time key rotation is enabled. And with Customer Owned CMK or External CMK, you control the frequency in which the keys are rotated. Right before reInvent 2019, AWS had announced support for asymmetric CMKs. If you're looking to use one of these types of CMKs, keep in mind that automatic key rotation is not an option, and instead you're having to manually rotate the keys. Tags. Tags are a form of metadata that can be used to assign to resources. Each tag consists of a key and a value, both of which you define. Two common use cases for using tags can be for both managing your assets and your cost structure. A few restrictions that you have with tags is that you can't have a tag with the name AWS. You're also limited to 50 tags per resource, and for each resource, each tag must be unique and can only have one value. Key policy. Key policies are the primary way of controlling access to your custom master keys. As part of your defense and death strategy, the key policy becomes the last line of defense and the only policy that focuses on protecting your data. A key policy is made up of a document that uses JSON, and you can only have one per CMK. It cannot exceed 32 kilobytes of data, and it can also be difficult to modify programmatically, forcing a human to make the necessary changes. Oftentimes, when you create a CMK, you might see a default key policy that looks something like this. Taking a closer look at the key policy, we can see the effect for the statement is set to allow, and for the principal, we have it set as root. By using the default principal of root, you're stating that not only are you allowing the root account full access, but you're also allowing the IAM administrator and the account to use IAM policies to control access to the CMK. And on top of all of that, by also having KMS star listed under actions, you're giving them full admin rights. Instead of using the default key policy, we are going to want to define our own key policy, which might look something like this. At the top of my key policy is an allow break glass statement. The first thing you might notice with this statement is that instead of using KMS star, I'm using a list of very specific actions that someone's allowed to perform. The second is that instead of using root under principal, I've created a role called key officer that certain individuals within my organization can assume. This is also the only statement within my key policy that has KMS put key policy listed under actions, meaning that if other statements fail within my key policy, then this statement allows the key officer role to go in and fix the key policy as needed. All other statements within my key policy are focused in controlling key management and different crypto operation access. The last piece I want to touch on is around key policy ownership. Based on this diagram, we can see that all key policies are owned by AWS. However, only both custom managed key types allow you to control the key policy. That's it for this episode on native KMS using AWS Key Management Service. In the next episode, we'll be taking a closer look at bring your own key and also introduce one of our encryption partner vendors that's a leader in this space. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.